Are you a video game collector? Are there games that you have been searching high and low for, but you can never manage to find, or when you do finally find them, they are stupidly expensive? This is my list of games that I have been looking for the longest freaking time, and this video comes from Casey Hufflepuff from Patreon. For those of you who don't know, I have a Patreon page where once a month, if you are in a certain bracket in the Patreon page, you can suggest a video for me to do, and this was the video suggested by Casey that I do a video all about my heartbreak, games that I can't find and that I want. I'm gonna be all upset and sad for a little while I talk about this stuff. Let's go for a journey, guys. Let's start with the most typical one, and it's a game that I want, and God. When you are involved in retro games and you watch a lot of these shows, there is a few games that you always see come back around. The rare games, the expensive games, the good ones that everyone wants. First time I ever saw this game was in an episode of Game Chasers, and I thought it looked really cool, so I actually went out and emulated it to see how fun it was, and sure enough, it was a really fun game. And that game is Little Samson, and it's a game that I've been searching for and trying to track down for a long time, and I just haven't managed to get my hands on it. When I first started trying to look for this game and buy this game, it was around $200, and I found it for a couple hundred a few times at conventions, but I didn't want to spend $200 on it. I wanted to try and get it for less because I'm cheap. And then, you know, a year goes by and then it's at $400. Another year goes by, it's at $700, and now I think the game is over $1,000. Like, it's ridiculous. That game just got absolutely blown out of proportion. The game is not worth that at all. It's a great game, one of the best for NES, also one of the rarest, but that doesn't mean it needs to be $1,000. There's no game worth $1,000. It's a fantastic game. It's a great game for the NES. Amazing. But does it compare to anything that I have for PS4? Is it as good as Horizon? No. So why is Horizon $60 and Little Samson is over $1,000? To settle your tits down, resellers. So that's definitely one that I'm probably never going to own unless I am that guy that walks in a garage sale and finds it in a stack of NES games. Never gonna happen, especially at this point in 2017. It's one I'm never gonna be able to cross off my list, and I'm aware of that, but it's one that I really want because it's such a fun game and everyone else that I'm friends with has it, so I want it too, but there it is, Little Samson. Next up is Twilight Princess for GameCube. I have Twilight Princess for the Wii. It's so much more uncommon for GameCube. I love GameCube. I collect for GameCube. I have a bunch of games here and a bunch of games back home in Australia. I love getting all the titles that I enjoyed playing growing up and even adding titles that I've never played before. It's one of the few systems where I will collect anything if I don't have it. That and NES, I will collect anything if it's cheap enough and I don't have it. Twilight Princess being one of my favorite games of all time. Obviously, it's a Zelda title, kind of big on the Zeldies. I've always wanted to add that to my Zelda collection, but I can never find it cheap enough. I actually found it at a friend's house recently, but they weren't selling it, so that doesn't really count. Next isn't so much of a game as it is a system. Recently, about a year ago, I decided I wanted to start collecting for the N-Gage, which is a really cool system that came out at some point when I was younger, and I remember it was around about that time that I finally got a mobile phone for the first time, and I thought mobile phones were the coolest thing because I could send text to my friends, and I could call my friends and send my girlfriend texts from my bedroom. I could finally talk to her when I wasn't at school, and I don't know, I just liked phones. It was a cool thing at the time. We also just got color phones. It was black and white until I was in high school, and then I went to high school and we finally got color phones, so I thought that was pretty cool. And obviously I also grew up on video games and I was a big video gamer, and then I heard about this phone that Nokia had made called the N-Gage, which was a phone that played video games. It had its own specific video games made for it, its own cartridges, its own actual games made for this system, which also happens to be a phone. It was the weirdest thing, but it was the coolest thing. It was so awkward, it was so bulky and dorky, and it just looked ridiculous to try and make a phone call on, but it was the N-Gage and I really wanted one, but I never even saw one. I didn't see one in shops. I didn't know where you could get one, and I was a kid, or a young adolescent, so there was no way I was ever going to pick one up. And then I grew up, I became a video game collector, and I wanted one, but I still haven't found one. The only time I have found an N-Gage that I would have considered picking up is I walked into a store somewhere in Texas with my friend Billy, and he had it in box, complete. It was a mint. Like, you couldn't even tell it'd been opened. It was in its plastic, everything, and he had a bunch of games for it like this, all sealed, all in boxes, like maybe 30 or 40, the greatest titles. Like, there was like an Elder Scrolls game, which is really uncommon. There were so many great games, Sonic games, and then he had a bunch of loose games that had not for resale written on them. It was crazy. It was it was my dream finding this in the back of his store. But of course he wanted 400 for it, which honestly was a really great deal, and he was hooking me up, but this is me, and I ain't paying 400 for an old phone, so I didn't pick it up, and I don't regret it because I couldn't afford it. I still can't afford it. I would still be paying off that debt if I did, but I definitely wanted it. So I still don't have an N-Gage system, and I don't have nearly as many N-Gage games as I want, but it's something that I actively look for because I like collecting rare, obscure things, and my history with this is I was a kid when I heard about it, and I wanted one then, so I still want one now. The next game is actually a very recent game. It was for the last generation of Nintendo systems, which is the Wii U, and what I want is the Bayonetta game, Bayonetta 2, with Bayonetta 1 in it. It's been eluding me for way too long. In North America, the game came out in a standard case, and it had a little badge here that said including Bayonetta 1, and it actually had a little foldy thing inside that has the second disc in it, and that was the way they did it with the 2 discs. I've been trying to find that while I'm here, but in Australia it was way cooler. It was actually in a big box that you open up, and then inside there was 2 loose actual cases, one Bayonetta 2 and one Bayonetta 1. That's what I ultimately want, and that's what I regret not picking up when it came out. I always thought I would have time. It was something that I wanted to play as soon as it came out, but there was so much going on at the time, my video game wise, that I was like, I'm not gonna play that anytime soon. My roommate had bought it, so I was playing his version instead. So I figured I'll just buy it eventually. I didn't realize how stupid it was gonna get with that game. Now that I'm here, I'm trying to find just the badge. Just the badge version would be nice. It's something at least, but I still haven't found that. I still haven't got the PAL version. All I have is this, which I managed to find at Target for 15 bucks. It's still sealed because I played this game. Try and leave it sealed until and if I can't ever find the other one that I want, I'll just open that one if I ever want to play it again, but until then I may as well just not even open it. And finally, the last game that I want is, again, something that I saw, old school Retro Liberty episode where Ricky picked up a game called Wild Guns. So for those of you who don't know who Retro Liberty is, I highly recommend checking out some of their old videos. They're on Daily Motion. That channel got deleted. That was a whole thing. Shout out to my boys, Aaron and Ricky. I miss you both very much, and I love you both very much. I hope you're both very well. I email Aaron all the time, so I know he's going good. Aaron, by the way, update on that, I guess, while I'm here. Aaron's doing great. He's doing much better. He actually has, if you guys haven't noticed, he has a YouTube channel that he made that's just purely his name, no videos or anything like that. He's not creating content for it. He still needs that break that I talked about in the previous video. He's still taking some time, but he has made a little account where he comments on everyone's videos. He's still very active watching and commenting on all our videos, and you'll see his name. You'll probably see his name in this video, I'm guessing, so scroll down and hopefully you'll see it. But big shout out to my boys, Aaron and Ricky. I miss you both. But anyway, I was watching one of their old videos and Ricky picked up Wild Guns, and I saw it and I was like, that game looks cool. Like, just from what I saw, like a small 15-second gameplay, and then the actual cartridge itself just had so much style, and the game was called Wild Guns. It's such a cool title. What kind of game? Like, I need to check this game out. So again, it was one that I went and emulated, and I think I played Wild Guns for maybe 15 minutes, and I'm like, damn, I love this. So I turned it off right away because I need the cart. And when I was in Retropalooza, I actually managed to pick it up for PlayStation 4. I guess Limited Run Games released it, or someone released it for PlayStation 4. So I have that, and then I left it at Billy's because I had way too much stuff to bring back with me, which is kind of stupid. But the thing is, I love that I have that on PlayStation 4 now. That's really cool. It's such a random game to have on PlayStation 4, and I love it. But I really still want the physical. I'm a retro collector, and it's something about owning the actual original cart and playing the actual original cart. How good would it be if Wild Guns was on the Super Nintendo Classic? That should have been a thing. Yeah, I definitely want to own the original cart, but I haven't found it. I think that game's over 100 now. I want to say it's about 100 to 150 for the Super Nintendo. I think you can get it for Genesis as well, and it's a little cheaper, but I definitely want it for Super Nintendo. So that's what I've been looking for. That's kind of the thing where every time I go into a store now, or a video game place, or somewhere that's selling Super Nintendo games, I always look for Wild Guns right away to see what their price is on it, to follow the trends or just see if they even have it. So that's a few random things, items, and stuff that I'm looking for that I would love to add to my collection, that I would love to put in here and eventually merge it with what I have back in Australia and just give it a happy home. I'm pretty happy with how my collecting has gone. Back when I was in Australia, I managed to pick up essentially everything that I had ever really wanted growing up. Everything that I looked at when I was a kid and thought, damn, I wish I could play that, or I wish I could afford that. Or I managed to pick up everything. There wasn't anything that I can remember were missing. And when I came to the States, I filled a few more gaps. I got Pokemon Gale XD because it was much cheaper here. I also got Baton Kados or Baton Kados, however you pronounce it, 1 and 2. So I filled so many gaps being in North America, and I've got everything that I wanted. And now it's when I see things I didn't know existed, or when I see things I learn about recently, and I'm like, I want that. I've been really fortunate with my collecting, but these are things that I still haven't found, and I'm still very unlucky that I haven't found it cheap enough. I've definitely found them. I've found Little Samson everywhere I go, every convention I go to. It's just always stupidly priced. But I would love to know what games you guys are looking for that you haven't found yet. What games do you are dying to own for your collection, or just want to own but you haven't found or you can't find cheap enough? Let me know in the description below. Hit this video with a like. Be subscribed if not already. Thank you, Casey, for the video. Make sure to check out my Patreon page. There's so many great perks and rewards over there. Patreon Skype calls. You can be in the Discord chat or the Facebook chat. You can watch me edit, get postcards. There's a lot of cool rewards over there, so make sure to head over and check it out. But that's all from me, and I will see you guys in the next video. I want to end on something funny, but I'm not funny today. Aaron from Retro Liberty, Billy from Game Chasers, and Joe from GameSack walk into a bar. The bartender says, "Hey, 2 of you guys look pretty cool. The other one kind of looks like a Which one was he talking about?" That's a question, not a joke. Let me know down below which one you think he was talking about. My money's on Joe. That was a joke. Haha, I did it.